Hello everyone. We are now on part 3 of our mob index journey, and we are going to start this video in Bill's farm because we are going to talk about some boars. When I first entered this area on my main archer, I made the mistake of entering the area on painful difficulty, like I had done on every area before it. I had never seen a boar before and didn't know how it would attack. So when one decided to charge straight at me, I couldn't react fast enough and it one-shot me, taking me straight back to Hill Town. Boars are in my top 10 of enemies I hate the most, and it's because they are just very annoying. When they charge towards you and hit you, they inflict the stun condition and also make you dizzy. This attack also does a significant amount damage that can one-shot you if you are not careful. Luckily, if you see it coming, you can jump out the way and avoid getting hit, and they aren't too difficult to kill either. The next enemy in this video is a special one, as it is not like most enemies in Darkrise. He's a new addition, an enemy you can only kill once, and starts as an NPC that gives quests. I'm talking about Lockhart, and I love the way the developers designed him. In the quest cards on the table, King Lloyd tells you to meet Lockhart at Sunset Port, but warns you to be careful because he believes Lockhart is dangerous. By the way, you will have already spoken to Lockhart in a previous quest. When you meet Lockhart again at Sunset Port, he tells you that he doesn't think humans can rule because they kill creatures that were living in wild areas before them, like the goblins. He wanted to ask you to join him, but he realizes you won't, and that's when he attacks you. Lockhart has a long sword which gives him decent range. His attack speed is slightly above average and he can do a decent amount of damage. The biggest threat about him is his spin/slash attack, which stuns you and knocks you back, but killing Lockhart shouldn't be too difficult. Once again, I'll have to say how much I like the way Lockhart was set up, and you should have seen my face when he first attacks. Our next enemy is another one which would be in my top 10 most hated, and probably in the top 5. I've gone with the name Godric, as Hario rightly pointed out to me that he looks identical to the warrior in Moonrise, the prequel to Darkrise. Godric is basically a warrior, and sadly this means he also has the berserker mode skill. My advice to anyone who sees Godric is to try and kill him before he turns on berserker mode, as once he does, he gets damage reduction, control resistance, healing passives, increasing damage output, and just turns into a general pain both offensively and defensively. Apart from the normal slashing attack, he also throws a boomerang at you which gives him range and also does a decent amount of damage. Basically, be careful of Godric. We have another human-looking enemy up next, and once again it is an enemy that closely resembles one of the characters in both Moonrise and Darkrise. I was going to call it Alice, like the archer in Moonrise, but Hario pointed out that unlike Godric, this archer looks different to the one in Moonrise, so I went with his suggestion of Master Archer instead. Master Archer is another enemy you should be careful around, though it's less threatening than Godric. Like the archer, the Master Archer's 3 main attacks are base shot, multi-shot, and barrage. This archer can do a good amount of damage, but is also easily killed. I'll be honest, I had no idea what to name this next enemy. I ended up with Skeletal Demon because of the horn-like things on its head. Like most skeleton types, this guy sucks defensively and therefore is easy to kill. However, like all undead types, he can, and will, just come back to life if he feels like it, so you do have to watch out for that. His main attacks are Fireball and Chain Lightning, with the Chain Lightning being able to stun and freeze you temporarily. Sticking with the skeleton theme, our next enemy is the Skeletal Reaper. It flies and has 2 sides instead of hands. When it hits you with them, it inflicts the bleed condition which does additional damage. It can also teleport, so if you try and run away from it, it will just follow you around and appear behind you. Having said that, there shouldn't be a need for running, as like most skeleton types, the Reaper is very easy to kill. Like most undead types, you may need to kill it twice to make sure it is gone for good. Our next enemy is the final skeleton type in this video. The mechanical skeleton is one of the strongest skeleton types and is another enemy that I find really annoying, especially in the latter stages of Fatal Bridge. It has this long blade thing which it uses to stab you with, and every time it hits you, it inflicts stun, dizziness, and reduced mobility. Like all undead types, it can revive after you kill it. Unlike most skeleton types, however, it has decent defensive stats which can make it harder to kill. The second to last enemy on this list is the golem. Now you might be wondering, quoted, why did you call this a golem? The golden golem in part 2 looks nothing like this one. My answer is very simple. There is a quest that calls it a golem, so I've gone with the official name. Now this enemy might just have the best defensive stats in Darkrise. It is so difficult to kill. It just tanks damage. You may need to hit it repeatedly before it dies. What makes killing it even more frustrating is that when it hits you, it stuns you, which means it takes even more time to kill. The golem is the perfect example of what happens when you decide to put all your effort into defensive stats. The final enemy in this video is another enemy that would go in my top 10 most hated. We are looking at the demon. Now, the way the demon first appears to you has changed after the recent updates. Before, it would just spawn and you would attack and kill it as part of a quest before returning to Lloyd. Now, it seems that these evil priests unleash it onto you as it only appears after they disappear. Either way, the enemy here is still the same. The demon is absolutely huge and its attack, which seems like some kind of blue fire, is what makes it so annoying to fight. It inflicts burn and decreases your mobility, something that is very irritating when it shows up in the latter stages of Fatal Bridge. It does a decent amount of damage and it also has decent defensive stats.